The phone screen glows, a tiny, self-contained universe of anxiety. It's been 2 hours since you sent the last text, "Hey, just thinking of you, hope your day's going well." 2 hours of staring at the three little dots that never appear, the silence that screams louder than any shout. Your heart pounds a slow, heavy drumbeat against your ribs. You imagine him somewhere, laughing with friends, a notification blinking unseen on his lock screen, while you're here, a knot of worry tightening in your stomach. What if I said something wrong? A voice whispers. What if he's not as into this as I am? You scroll back through the conversation, analyzing every word, every emoji, searching for the moment you made a misstep. You know this feeling, this gnawing uncertainty. It's a familiar ache, a ghost from past relationships that always seems to find its way back home. You feel it in the pit of your stomach, the tension in your jaw, the way you can't seem to focus on anything else. Why does love, which is supposed to feel like a soft landing, so often feel like walking on eggshells? At Love Threads, we don't just talk about relationships, we deconstruct them. We blend authentic, grounded insights with robust, evidence-based psychology, giving you the real intelligence on why we connect, why we sometimes misstep, and how to truly thrive when love feels like a constantly shifting landscape. Today, we're exploring one of the most fascinating patterns in human relationships: attachment styles. These aren't coincidences. They're not random bad timing. They're psychological and spiritual tests that reveal whether you're truly ready to cross the threshold from casual love into committed partnership. And understanding this pattern might be the key to finally choosing love that lasts. Drop a heart if you've ever felt this ache, and drop a commentary if someone has ever tested your relationship right when things were getting serious, because today we're going to understand why they showed up and what they were really trying to teach you. Let's talk about the silent language we all speak, often without realizing it. It's the language of emotional security, of trust, and of what we learned about love long before we were old enough to date. Think about it. You meet someone amazing. The connection is electric. The conversation flows effortlessly. And for the first time in a long time, you feel a sense of calm and possibility. You start planning for the future, sharing your dreams, and letting your guard down. This is the moment when things are supposed to get easier, but for so many of us, it's when they get more complicated. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle shift. The person who was so available and excited suddenly seems distant. The texts become shorter, the calls less frequent. You feel a pang of familiar panic. You're pulled into an emotional dance, one where you're constantly trying to close a distance that the other person seems to be creating. You find yourself doing things you swore you'd never do again, double texting, over-analyzing their every move, or even pulling back completely to see if they'll chase you. It's a push and pull, a maddening cycle that leaves you feeling drained and confused. This isn't a modern phenomenon, even though our digital tools like texting and social media amplify the anxiety. It's the echo of an ancient primal need, the need to feel safe and connected. Like the work of Brené Brown reminds us, vulnerability is what keeps bonds alive in memory, but it's also what can make us feel exposed and raw in the present. When we open ourselves up, we become susceptible to the same fears and insecurities that shaped us in childhood. We carry these invisible threads from our earliest relationships into every new connection. Let's talk about the silent language we all speak, often without realizing it. It's the language of emotional security, of trust, and of what we learned about love long before we were old enough to date. Think about it. You meet someone amazing. The connection is electric. The conversation flows effortlessly. And for the first time in a long time, you feel a sense of calm and possibility. You start planning for the future, sharing your dreams, and letting your guard down. This is the moment when things are supposed to get easier, but for so many of us, it's when they get more complicated. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle shift. The person who was so available and excited suddenly seems distant. The texts become shorter, the call. The invisible threads. The psychological framework for understanding this emotional dance is called attachment theory. At its core, it's a simple yet profound idea. Our earliest relationships with our primary caregivers create a blueprint for how we form bonds and seek connection throughout our entire lives. It's the reason some people are comfortable with intimacy, while others are more independent, and still others seem to crave closeness but are constantly worried about it slipping away. This is more than just a theory, it's a biological imperative. Our brains are wired for connection. We are social creatures who, for survival, need to form strong bonds with others. Studies on the neuroscience of love reveal the powerful role of chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. Dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, is released when we engage in novel and rewarding activities, including falling in love. It creates that exhilarating, almost addictive high we feel in the early stages of a relationship. Oxytocin, on the other hand, is the bonding hormone, often called the cuddle chemical. It's released during physical touch and promotes feelings of trust and security. For those with a secure attachment, this neurochemical cocktail works as it's intended, helping them form a strong, lasting bond. But for others, the system can get short-circuited. There are 3 primary adult attachment styles: secure, anxious, and avoidant. The secure attacher. This is the ideal, the benchmark. Securely attached individuals are comfortable with intimacy and emotional closeness. They don't fear being abandoned or overwhelmed. They can give and receive affection easily, and they feel safe enough to express their needs and boundaries without worrying about pushing their partner away. They tend to have a healthy sense of self-worth and a belief that relationships can be a source of safety and support. When there's a problem, they don't see it as a threat to the relationship's existence, but as a challenge to be solved together. They're what relationship experts call masters of bids for connection, those small, everyday attempts to get a partner's attention, support, or affection. They naturally respond to these bids and create a love map, a detailed understanding of their partner's inner world. The anxious attacher. This is the person who feels that ache in the pit of their stomach when a text goes unanswered. Anxiously attached individuals crave intimacy and closeness, but are often plagued by a deep-seated fear of abandonment. They tend to worry that their partner doesn't love them enough or will eventually leave. This can lead to what relationship therapists call protest behaviors, constantly seeking reassurance, being overly clingy, or even picking fights just to get a reaction. Their nervous system is on high alert, always scanning for signs of rejection. They are constantly in a state of hypervigilance, and this constant stress response can make them feel exhausted and unfulfilled in their relationships. They can become masters of the silent test, withdrawing to see if their partner will notice and chase after them. The paradox is that the very closeness they seek is often pushed away by the behaviors their fear triggers. The avoidant attacher. The avoidant individual is the person who pulls back when things get too serious. They value independence and freedom above all else, and often equate intimacy with a loss of self. They may have a deep-seated fear of being smothered or controlled. When a relationship starts to deepen, they might create distance through emotional unavailability, working long hours, or even flirting with others. They are often masters of subtle deactivation strategies, anything to keep their partner at arm's length. Their nervous system is wired to see closeness as a threat, and their go-to response is to pull back. While they may long for connection on a deep level, their fear of vulnerability is so powerful that it overrides that desire. They often hold a negative view of others and a positive, almost inflated view of themselves, believing they don't need anyone else. The most common and often most painful dynamic is the pairing of an anxious attacher with an avoidant attacher. It's a perfect storm. The anxious person's need for closeness triggers the avoidant person's need for distance, and the avoidant person's distance triggers the anxious person's fear of abandonment. They create a self-perpetuating cycle of push and pull, often leading to a painful and confusing breakup. The anxious person feels unheard and unloved, while the avoidant person feels suffocated and controlled. It's a tragic dance where both partners' deepest fears are validated and reinforced. It's important to remember that these aren't permanent labels. They are styles, patterns of behavior and belief that we developed as a survival mechanism. They can change with self-awareness, compassion, and intentional practice. It's not about finding someone with the right attachment style. It's about understanding your own and choosing a partner who is willing to do the same. Because, as one psychologist reminds us, our attachment hunger is a fundamental human need, and our protest behaviors are simply our way of crying out when that need isn't being met. Archetypal narratives and sacred contracts. Our attachment styles are the scripts we follow, but there's a deeper layer to these relational patterns. They're part of a larger archetypal story. Every person who enters our lives, especially those who challenge us, is a character in our personal hero's journey. Like the work of Joseph Campbell, the partners we attract often serve as guides, mentors, or even tricksters, forcing us to face our own unconscious wounds and limitations. Consider the concept of sacred contracts. Some partners don't enter our lives to stay forever. They enter to awaken a hidden part of us, to shine a light on a blind spot we couldn't see on our own. For the anxious attacher, a relationship with an avoidant partner might feel like a cruel test, but what if it's a sacred contract designed to teach you to find security within yourself, rather than in another person's validation? What if it's a lesson in self-worth, in setting boundaries, and in the courage to walk away from what doesn't serve you? In this narrative, the avoidant partner isn't the villain, they are the catalyst. They are the mirror, reflecting our own deepest insecurities back at us. They are forcing us to confront the question, am I enough on my own? And for the avoidant attacher, a relationship with an anxious partner might be a sacred contract to learn to trust, to lean into vulnerability, and to understand that intimacy doesn't have to mean a loss of self. It's a lesson in allowing oneself to be truly seen and to ask for help when needed. It's a challenge to move from the isolated fortress of the self into the co-created space of a partnership. This is a recurring theme in pop culture and mythology. Think of the tortured artist who can't commit, or the character who is constantly seeking validation from their partner. These are not just plot devices, they are archetypal stories of the anxious and avoidant struggle. They tap into our collective unconscious, as the work of Carl Jung suggests, showing us the universal patterns of human behavior and our journey toward individuation, the process of becoming a whole and complete self. The anxious attacher is often in a waiting for the other shoe to drop story, a narrative of perpetual vigilance. The avoidant attacher is living a I can only count on myself narrative, a story of self-reliance taken to the extreme. The work of healing isn't to find a new person to fix us, it's to rewrite our own story. Ask yourself, which story feels closest to your own? The one where you're constantly chasing, or the one where you're constantly running? Understanding your narrative is the first step toward choosing a new one. This is not about blaming yourself or your partner, it's about recognizing the pattern and choosing to break the cycle. It's about seeing that these relationships are not just a series of random bad luck, but a profound and often painful opportunity for growth. The invisible threads of attachment, archetypes. Our attachment styles are more than just psychological patterns, they're archetypal scripts we follow, shaping our roles in the great play of human connection. Every person we attract and every dynamic we enter into is part of a larger mythic narrative. By understanding these archetypes, we can see ourselves and our partners not just as individuals, but as players in a universal drama, giving us a deeper wisdom and compassion for our own journey. The secure attacher's archetypes. The secure attacher is the archetypal hero of relational stability. They are not defined by the quest for love, but by their capacity to create a safe harbor for it. They embody balance, strength, and an authentic vulnerability that invites true intimacy. Shining armor. This archetype is willing to rescue others and be the hero, but only from a safe distance. The knight is comfortable with grand gestures and acts of service that don't require emotional intimacy. They can be very helpful and available when their partner is in crisis, but they are quick to retreat once the drama subsides and the relationship requires genuine vulnerability and emotional closeness. This archetype keeps love at arm's length, making themselves indispensable without ever truly opening up. You can't erase the past, but you can change your relationship with it. Neuroscience shows us that love memories don't erase, but they can be transformed. The neural pathways associated with past pain can be rerouted and replaced with new ones, creating a different response to old triggers. Healing is not about forgetting, it's about building a new foundation. Here is how you start to rewrite your story. Acknowledge the imprint. The first step is awareness. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Take the online quizzes to get a sense of your attachment style, but more importantly, observe yourself in your daily life. When a text goes unanswered, what's your first impulse? Do you feel a need to fill the silence? Or do you feel a need to create more distance? Pay attention to the physical sensations of anxiety or the urge to withdraw. This is your body's nervous system giving you clues. Narrative reframe. Instead of seeing your attachment style as a flaw, reframe it as a survival skill that is no longer serving you. Anxious attachment meant you learned to be hyper-attuned to the needs of others to ensure you wouldn't be abandoned. That sensitivity can now be a superpower for empathy and connection. Avoidant attachment meant you learned to be self-reliant and independent. That self-sufficiency can be a powerful source of strength and autonomy. The goal is to integrate these skills into a healthy, secure way of relating, rather than letting them dictate your relationships. Nonviolent self-talk. The language you use with yourself matters. When you feel the familiar panic rising, instead of saying, "I'm so needy," try, "I am feeling insecure right now because I value connection." Instead of, "I always get pushed away," try, "My old patterns are being triggered, but I have the power to respond differently." This kind of compassionate, nonviolent self-talk, a key tenet of communication frameworks, moves you from a place of shame to a place of observation and curiosity. Boundary work, Nedra Tawwab style. Boundaries are not about keeping others out, they are about protecting your inner peace. If you are anxious, you might need to set a boundary with yourself to not double text. You might need to set a boundary with your partner to have clear communication about their availability. If you are avoidant, you might need to set a boundary with yourself to stay present in a difficult conversation for an extra 5 minutes. You might need to set a boundary with your partner to communicate your need for space in a way that doesn't feel like a rejection. Boundaries are not walls. They are guardrails that keep the relationship on a safe, healthy track. Micro-actions, Gottman. Love is not one grand gesture, it's 1,000 tiny ones. For the anxiously attached, practice small acts of self-soothing and self-reliance. Take a walk, call a friend, journal, or do something you love when you feel the urge to seek reassurance. For the avoidant attacher, practice small acts of vulnerability. Send a text to your partner just to say you're thinking of them. Share a small personal detail about your day. These micro-actions, or bids for connection, build a new muscle of secure relating. Modern healing practices. The mind-body connection is crucial here. Anxiety and avoidance are not just mental states, they are physiological responses. Practices like somatic therapy can help you release the stored tension and fear in your body. Journaling, meditation, and even something as simple as a mindful walk can help regulate your nervous system. Learn to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty instead of acting on it. Have you ever reframed an old love story? How did it set you free? When you stopped chasing and started standing in your own worth, the dynamic changed. When you stopped running and started facing your fears, you opened the door to a different kind of love. The relationships you've experienced were not a string of coincidences. They were a profound and intentional path to self-discovery. Loosening one knot can be the start of another, this time woven from your own strength. What's the one memory that still lingers for you, and what has it taught you? Share your story in the comments below. Someone you know might need this reminder today. Subscribe to keep unraveling the hidden threads of love, loss, and attachment.